So it's October. It's the best time of year to be a baseball fan. The magic is in the air. It's MLB postseason. And even if you don't fuck with baseball, this is the best time to tune in. It's when the energy is right and the action is at its peak. The wild card round is over in the 2022 MLB playoffs, and we're moving on to the games that really matter, and that is the division series. And we're going to kick it off in the National League Division Series with the defending world champion Atlanta Braves, who are the 2 seed in the National League, taking on the 6 seed Philadelphia Phillies, who are in the playoffs with just 87 wins. They were the third and final wild card, and they surprisingly swept the St. Louis Cardinals in the wild card round to put themselves in this position. And there are some keys to how the Phillies can definitely upset Atlanta. These are 2 teams that are National League East rivals, and they went at it quite a bit this season, playing 19 times. The Braves did best the Phillies 11-8 in those games, but the scoring margin in total was only 88-85 Atlanta. So these teams definitely play some closer games than you would expect, and this should be a better series than you expect. Some things to look for when watching this series between Philadelphia and Atlanta is the Braves definitely have the better roster from top to bottom, but it is a lot different lineup than last year during their 2021 World Series victory, as they have 5 new guys in the 9-man lineup. The key for Atlanta really last year was a whole lot of clutch hitting from some unsung heroes, guys like Eddie Rosario and Austin Riley. Now the question is can these new guys that stepped in for the team this year replace those guys well enough to give the same clutch hitting and that same magic here in 2022 to be the first repeat champions since 1998 through 2000 when the New York Yankees did it. As for the Philadelphia Phillies, the key for them this series is surviving until they can get back to their aces, Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, because I do believe that with those 2 guys starting for them, they can outplay these Atlanta Braves. And if the power bats for the Phillies, such as Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber, can drive in runs and hit the ball out of the ballpark, there is no reason why Philadelphia can't upset Atlanta and get to their first NLCS since 2010. Moving over from the National League East series that we have in the divisional round, we also have a National League West matchup with the heavily favored Los Angeles Dodgers, who won 111 games this year. They are the number 1 seed, not only in the National League, but in the MLB as a whole. And they are taking on their rivals from the southern part of California, the San Diego Padres, who are coming in with 89 wins this year. And they upset the 101-win Mets in the National League wild card round. No one really expected these Padres to make it here without Tatis Jr., but of course with the big addition of Juan Soto, this team has enough star power to get to this moment. But the one thing that has always held these San Diego Padres back these last few years as they tried to make a push at these perennial power Dodgers is the fact that they just cannot beat LA head-to-head. They're only 5-14 in their 19 matchups this year against the Dodgers, and it is definitely going to be an uphill climb in this series. And the only way I see them even having a chance of sniffing this is if Yu Darvish, Blake Snell both show up and play their best, because when both of those guys are at their worst, it can get really, really bad, especially against the best lineup in the baseball like the Dodgers have. So they need some really key pitching from some inconsistent guys in order to get this thing through, because their star lineup is not going to be enough to beat the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are simply the best. Now, when it comes to LA, their Achilles heel is their bullpen, which is a big deal when it comes to playoff baseball. But their starting rotation has been so good this year that I don't think it will matter. And I think LA should take this series fairly easily from San Diego. We're going to move over to the American League side of the bracket as we have an American League West matchup in the ALDS with the Seattle Mariners taking on the Houston Astros. And we have quite a contrast of rosters in this one when it comes to playoff experience, as you have a team in the Mariners that have pretty much no one that has ever been to the playoffs in their career, taking on a team in the Houston Astros that, just like the LA Dodgers, have seemingly been in the playoffs every year for about the last 5 to 10 years. So we know what the Astros bring to the table with their experience and their amazing offensive execution and clutch hitting in the postseason and in the ALCS and World Series and beyond. Now it's the question is, can the Mariners match that intensity that we know Houston is going to bring, because Seattle as a franchise has not even been in the playoffs for 21 years. This is a huge breakthrough for them, and a lot of people were surprised by them sweeping Toronto in that wild card series, especially with that crazy 8-run comeback in game number 2 of that series. Now the young Mariners are here. They're fresh. They're wide-eyed. Can they make the plays that matter, though, and match what Houston can do on the offensive side of the ball? I think overall, Seattle's pitching is just as good as Houston's. That goes for the starting rotation and the bullpen. In fact, you could even argue that Seattle's bullpen is better. But once again, where that difference lies is in that offensive lineup with guys like Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, and Jose Altuve. The Houston Astros are absolutely loaded. They won 106 games for a reason, and I see them putting up a lot of runs regardless of who they play, because no matter how much you're up on the Houston Astros, no matter what you're doing, who your pitcher is, they keep putting up competitive at-bats. They never give in. They never give up. They have one goal, and that's to win every inning at a time, and they're definitely capable of beating the Seattle Mariners team in 3 games. I also could see the Mariners putting up a fight in this series and winning a game or 2, but I do think Houston is going to take care of business because I think that experience matters. Now, moving over to the only series in this division series round this year that isn't a matchup between 2 in-division opponents, and that is the AL Central champion Cleveland Guardians taking on the AL East champion New York Yankees in a matchup of 2 franchises that have met in 5 previous playoff series since the wild card era began back in the early 90s, with the Yankees having a 3-2 edge in those previous 5 series. And the Guardians are definitely a team that is massively overlooked. They won 92 games this year, which was only 7 less than the very powerful New York Yankees. I think the problem with the Guardians is they are extremely young. They are the youngest team in baseball. In fact, 17 guys on their playoff roster just made their MLB debuts this season, which is impressive that they're even to this point. But if they're going to get beyond the powerful Yankees and Aaron Judge and that loaded lineup they have, they are going to have to hit the ball themselves. I almost called them the Indians, bro.
Are they the Indians? Weren't they the Indians?
Yeah, they were, yeah. No. The Guardians only managed to put up 3 total runs in their wild card series victory over the Tampa Bay Rays. Even though they managed to sweep the Rays behind some great starting pitching and really good work from their bullpen, they're going to have to hit the ball a lot better in this ALDS against a Yankees team that is known for putting up a lot of runs, especially with the home run ball. Guys like Anthony Rizzo, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton are all ready to go get that World Series ring this year and break that Yankees drought that they've had since 2009 and hang up that 28th banner. The Guardians are definitely capable of surprising people and forcing this series to 5 and maybe even winning this series. But their star batters are going to have to come to play and play a lot better than they did against Tampa Bay, because just 3 runs through 2 games is not going to cut it in a series against a team with the offensive capabilities of the New York Yankees. Yes, the Guardians have the better bullpen. Yes, they probably have a even better starting rotation. But at the end of the day, if you're only scoring 0, 1, or 2 runs, the Yankees are going to beat you pretty much every time. And that's why I think New York ultimately will probably end up matching up with Houston in the ALCS. It comes down to it. I think the Philadelphia Phillies are going to upset the Atlanta Braves in 5 games in that series. I think the Dodgers will beat the Padres in 4 games. I think the Guardians will lose to the Yankees in 4 games. And I think the Astros will beat the Mariners in 4 games. And I think the Astros and Yankees will meet in the 2022 ALCS. And I think the Phillies and the Dodgers will meet in the 2022 NLCS, with the Phillies being the only surprise team to make it through to that Final Four.